Hello, everybody. LC Holt here. This is my update for the week of August the 12th. Today, as you probably can tell, we look a little different, and that's primarily because Facebook has discontinued their Hangouts on Air function, which, in my humble opinion, is a major mistake. But we're going to move on. We're going to keep going, and I'm going to keep going with Jarrod Cuthrell. Jarrod, how you doing, man?
What's up, buddy?
Oh, I'm making it, man. Today, me and you are going to have a little chat about Suspiria,
Yes.
primarily the October 2018 version of Suspiria, the remake of Suspiria, which the original film came out in 1977, directed by Dario Argento. I know you're not particularly familiar with the original.
Yes, that's correct, Elsie. That would be not at all. Yes.
Right. So I'll help you along there. Okay.
Okay.
But the good thing about this particular remake is that it doesn't have an awful lot to do with the original.
Okay, good.
Which is kind of why I like it, and I'll go into that more later. But like I said, this movie was released October the 26th, 2018, and it was directed by a man who's, oh my God, there was a cat.
It's everywhere, man. It likes your voice. It likes your voice.
Yeah, well, I try, But the man who directed this movie, Luca, I'm not even going to try and butcher his last name, but he is obviously a very talented writer and director. But he chose to do something totally different for his version of Suspiria. Not different so much in the major plot points, but certainly different in the tone.
Yeah.
Because the Dario Argento original, which starred Jessica Harper, who actually makes an appearance in this version, much to my delight, was kind of a nightmare caught stylishly on film.
Yes.
A lot of color, a lot of character, not so much necessarily in the characters, but a lot of character in how things were framed and how things played out. It had that Dario Argento nightmarish shit that made no sense, but kind of made sense if you looked at the movie as being what it was, which was a surrealistic horror experience.
His version was the 70 what?
1977, which is when this film is set.
Okay. Yeah, it almost looks like the colors, they're so dramatic. It looks almost 80s, like neons, like they're so like intensely colored.
Yeah, he played a lot with color at that particular time. Now Argento these days is not what he used to be. But in his heyday of doing movies like Suspiria, before that he did the Animal trilogy, which was a trilogy of Italian. All of these were Italian films.
Yeah.
Of Italian giallos, giallo being what the Italians call murder mystery movies, because and that time in Italy, these books that were printed on yellowish paper were murder mystery novels, were very popular, and so popular, in fact, that they were called giallo, which is yellow in Italian. And so when filmmakers started to make these bizarre murder mysteries, they started to call the film genre giallos. And so Italy was known at this particular time as being, a country that produced a lot of these really fascinating giallos. And before Suspiria, Dario, whose daughter is now well known as an actress, Asia Argento. But Dario's first few films were what they called the Animal trilogy, which were, and I don't know if I'm getting this in the right order, but they were Bird of a Crystal Plumage, Four Flies on Grey Velvet, and Cat o' Nine Tails.
I'm sorry, you didn't say what is before you answered that. You do not get any other points for it.
I don't get bonus round points for that. No. But that's just a little background. And then he did Suspiria, which was the first of a trilogy about the three mothers. A trilogy that started with that film and then continued with a movie called Inferno, which I think is really good, and then ended with a movie I haven't seen yet called The Mother of Tears. Dario, I stopped watching his movies at a certain point because it was just so sad how far he'd fallen creatively.
Is it something a tribute to that? Was he like an alcoholic, or he just got old, or what was going on?
I think he was one of those directors I think that never developed. He pretty much stayed kind of the same. It's just that the same thing got
Dated.
old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And he did a couple good things here and there, but like the last movie, I don't know if you've ever seen the trailer for Dracula 3D. All you have to do, if the title doesn't, sell it, all you got to do is watch that trailer and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Giant, Dracula turns into a giant praying mantis at one point because Dario likes bugs. So therefore he must be a praying mantis at one point. Because he always, crowbar in a giant bug or a rape scene with his daughter, which is really odd. But anyway, I digress. Can you imagine? Like, how could you direct a rape scene with your daughter?
I don't know. I mean, I guess as if you're looking at it from an actor's standpoint, maybe she knows that she can trust you, whereas another actress may not know.
That's true. That's true.
I don't know. That's a guess.
But I don't want to get too much into the daughter rape scenes.
You brought it up.
I did bring it up, and now I'm going to move on. But yeah, so that's kind of an overview of the original Suspiria. And if I just gave you the plot, it would probably sound a lot like the plot of this movie we're talking about today, with one big exception, which is there is not a psychiatrist in the original Suspiria. Okay. That is a major character that's added with the remake, and is one of 3 characters played by Tilda Swinton.
Yeah. So when this movie came out, like I read a little bit about it because of the Tilda Swinton doing the dual roles, and I didn't know trio roles, but I watched it and I totally forgot, and I was like trying to figure out the whole movie, and then when it was like it's the old man, I was like, my mind hurts. Like, that was a good job.
I thought that too, and the person I was watching it with, even after we watched the movie, kept saying, who was that actor, that guy? Yeah. And I said, I think that was Tilda Swinton.
Yeah.
Because I had read it. Had I not read it beforehand, I might have gone that way.
No idea. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if the way they got Tilda Swinton to be in this movie was to say, you're going to play 3 roles.
It could have been. She gets paid triple.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. And all 3 roles are interesting roles. I mean, they're all essential to the plot. Now, replacing Jessica Harper as Susie Bannion was Dakota Fanning. I was thinking of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Dakota Johnson.
Yeah.
The only thing I know Dakota Johnson from, other than who her parents are, I know that Melanie Griffith and Don Johnson are her folks, but I have never seen 50 Shades of Grey.
Okay.
Have you?
Yes, just the first one.
Was it any good?
It wasn't bad. Like if you prepare you know what you're getting into with that movie. And I think they did a fine job. We'll veer more into talking about Dakota Johnson, I guess, when we get toward the latter stuff. So go on from there, I guess.
Yeah, I was just curious because I thought she was really good in this movie. I didn't know if she was good in that movie or not. I mean, I know the story of that movie, and I attempted to read the first 50 Shades book, and my head started to hurt. And I just had this thought. I mean, it was like the worst thing professionally published I'd ever read. But anyway, moving on from that, she plays Susie Bannion in the remake, which, as I said, is set in Berlin in the autumn of 1977. She comes from a Mennonite family in Ohio, Susie, in this version, which is not something that was addressed in the original at all, but is certainly addressed here to a high degree. I should say that the way this movie started, Suspiria 2018, I'm talking about now, I got it on Amazon, and I started watching it. And at first I thought, did I buy the wrong movie? Because this doesn't look at all like Suspiria to me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have a title at the beginning, Suspiria. There's no title card.
Okay.
And there's nothing about the movie at first that suggests Suspiria because, frankly, I love the original and I think it's very artistic and wonderful. But this movie started out and I thought I was watching a Lars von Trier film. I mean, it's
Okay.
very beautiful. It has the chapter sections. There's like 6 chapters and an epilogue, like Lars von Trier does. And it just looked really classy. Like I was watching a European drama.
Okay.
And it wasn't until a certain point in the story, and I would say a good 10 or 15 minutes in, that I realized I had bought the right movie and that this was indeed Suspiria. And that was when she arrives at, Madame Marcos's dance academy. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's Suspiria. I got you. But at the beginning where you see the doctor, Dr. Yosef Kimperler, there are a lot of ERs at the end of that name.
Very close to that. Yeah, that was about right.
Yeah. With that, and then Chloe Grace Moritz, she comes to him as she plays Patricia Hingle, who is a dance student at Marcos's Academy. We haven't been introduced to the Marcos Academy yet, but she comes and starts talking about strange shit to this psychiatrist who seems to just think that she has some sort of a delusional issue. And then we see Susie arriving in West Berlin to audition for the Marcos Dance Academy, which is given a German name, which I don't know right offhand, but it's not just Dance Academy, it's Marcos something. And that's when we sort of tie the two scenes together. We find out the girl who went to the psychiatrist was a former student and has now gone missing. But the matrons, this is all a female, there's like a group of women who run this academy. They're all acting as if, we're not going to talk about that, which is very reminiscent of the original, which, began with Susie arriving at the dance academy and her seeing in a really beautiful shot the girl running away through the woods in the opposite direction and not really understanding what's going on. You're just sort of thrown into this weird, quite beautiful and colorful nightmare. But Susie befriends this girl named Sarah, who's also a dancer there. And she's played, I think, by Mia Goth.
Mia Goth, yeah.
Yeah. Are you familiar with her work?
Yeah.
I have never seen Mia Goth before. What was she?
She was in the Cure for Wellness.
Oh, see, I haven't seen that.
Oh, I'm surprised. She did Nymphomaniac.
Oh, I have seen that. Speaking of Lars von Trier, who was she in Nymphomania?
Oh, I think she was in, because her and Shia LaBeouf are married in real life, right? Or they dated or dating?
Could be.
I think they met in that movie. I've never seen it. I just know she was in it.
What do you think of Shia LaBeouf's British accent?
Like I said, I haven't seen Nymphomaniac. I just know she was in it.
You're in for a treat.
Oh, well.
And I'll leave it there.
Okay.
But anyway, so Susie befriends this Sarah, Mia Goth, whose career I am sadly behind on, even though I've seen Nymphomania. I have to watch that again. And there's also a Soviet, a Russian student, because again, 1977, Soviet Union, named Olga, of course, because she's Russian.
Well, why not? Yeah.
Yeah. And then Susie, you kind of get the idea early on that Susie is special and that Madame Blanc, really digs her. And the audition goes well and she gets accepted there. And then there's a scene at one point of Olga, the Russian. You remember when she accused Madame Blanc? They're doing the thing, Susie's there, and then she goes nuts about talking about the girl that ran away, Pat.
Yeah. It's in front of the class, right?
Yeah. And Susie doesn't seem to know what's going on. She's trying to figure out this elaborate dance move, and Olga, lays on the class that Madame Blanc is somehow responsible for the Patricia's disappearance. Which, having seen the first movie, you go, well, of course, because it's Madame Blanc, she's the villain.
Right.
Which they, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, like the tone of it too. It seems like I think it's because of the colors and the way they set it up. Like you already get the sense, like why would it even be brought up in a class if there wasn't something to it? Because how often I imagine in ballet class is someone like, "Hey, teacher, you made that girl go missing," unless there's some type of truth to it.
Right. Right. And I'm kind of moving pretty fast because that doesn't happen until a good ways into the movie. This is
a 2.5 hour movie, so
it is, and that took me by surprise too. And honestly, that's part of the reason I was fascinated with seeing it, because the original one is a pretty tight hour and a half.
Okay.
So this one is an hour longer than the original.
Okay.
What did you think of the speed? Was it too slow for you? Was it too languid, or?
So I have just also watched like Midsummer, which was pushing forever too, and then you watch something like In Game, which you don't really feel the 3 hours. But for this one, I don't remember the time really bothering me. Same thing with Blade Runner. Like it's pretty enough and it's interesting enough to look at, to where the time, even though it is kind of slow, it doesn't feel like it's dragging a whole lot.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with this and with Blade Runner. Actually, that's a great example because
Yeah.
I loved that sequel to Blade Runner. I was blown away by it. Even being a huge fan of the original, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I mean, not to jump to the end, but I kind of had that impression with this movie ultimately. But anyway, we'll go back to the scene I was talking about because it leads to, I think, the first real horror, quote unquote, sequence, which is fucking amazing.
Pretty gruesome. Yeah.
Yes.
Hard to watch.
That's right. Because you do get this strange sense that Susie, this Mennonite girl from Ohio, there's something different about her. And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that the scene also where Madame Blanc tells her she can do this dance and she touches her? And you see what looks like some kind of energy pass.
Oh, I don't remember an energy pass. Isn't it also it doesn't something like creep up from below her? Like the floor, is that the same scene?
Yeah, because you do have that shot directly upwards of her. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was some idea like she is imbuing her with some little bit of something in order to get through the dance or to connect her to the doomed woman in the other room.
Yeah, because there's this it's this performance called Volk, and there's a lot of build up to it because that's what they're dancing for. It's like these elaborate dances are all a part of this performance called Volk, and which plays out in the ultimately in the end of the movie. But in this scene, we're seeing kind of Susie come into her own as a dancer, and as you said, Olga, having come to the belief that these people are somehow evil, tries to escape the academy after confronting Blanc and winds up trapped in the audition room, which is a room that just has all these mirrors, really beautiful. How they shot in there, I'll never know. But I kind of got the impression from this movie that there was a lot of subtle CGI, not the kind of, but done in a really kind of classy way. But every time, and it's just a long sequence, as you said, and very gruesome and kind of a shock from how somber the movie has been up until now. But as Susie is dancing this complicated Volk performance in one room, we're intercut with Olga in the audition room being obviously forcefully responding to all of her motions in such a way that her body is being ripped apart and contorted and slammed against mirrors, and it just goes on forever.
Yeah, and it's I think that's one of the things too. I don't know how long the scene is, but I do know that you watch it and you're like, oh, that's pretty messed up. Oh, that's awful. Oh, and then you're like, oh, it's still going. It feels a lot longer because you have to watch it and it gets worse and worse.
Yeah, to the point that her face starts to like contract and things. I mean, she gets fucked up. She's twisted into a pretzel.
Yeah.
This Olga, which makes you wonder if she shouldn't have just kept her mouth shut. And and you know that this is more than just Susie, because remember after the dance is over, the matrons come in and use hooks
Yeah.
and hook her body and drag it out. So these people, Olga was correct, and it seems Pat was correct too. These people are not kosher.
Well, do you think so within the dance world? So it's, I think, do the main girls like know they are being prepped for this event that happens toward the end?
In terms of what it actually means.
Yeah, because I mean they're basically about to become like a vessel, right? For the next. Okay, and so with that, do they know they're being prepped?
My impression was that they didn't.
Okay.
At that point, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
But I remember.
Okay. Well, the only reason I'm asking is so, like, if the girl that gets twisted up and murked, she wasn't the one being prepared for the vessel. It was Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yes. Yeah. At
And
that
she
point.
escaped.
Yeah.
She escaped. And so, and Chloe's character figured it out, and that's why she ran. Whereas, like, if this girl is accusing them, hey, you guys made her go vanishing, I'm assuming that she does not know they are witches, or that shit is. Yeah, but so does that mean that some of the different dance members are aware of what's happening, or just that main one that could become said, and they have to? There's a lot of talk about them opening yourself up to it, and like becoming, letting yourself go, and all that good stuff. So I wonder if that's all priming for the main person, or is that something they all go through?
It could be. I mean, that's a good point. I'm not sure, and I don't think it's ever said. Yeah. Who knows what? I mean, obviously, other than the people in charge. But that's something to think about. I'm not sure. At this point, Susie doesn't seem to know.
Yeah, no.
But certainly Pat and Olga have figured it out, and maybe some of the others are fully aware of it. That could be entirely possible, because there are other characters that are introduced, not in a major way, other young dancers.
Yeah.
But you don't really find too much out about them, other than at the end what their purpose is seemingly for. I do remember another scene comes to mind. And that was shot in a really unusual way and subtitled, because this is one of those movies where people in Germany actually speak German, and so there's some reading involved. But do you remember the scene where it flows into that like room, I guess, and the matrons aren't there, but you're hearing them as they conduct the vote?
Yes.
For who's going to run the coven?
Yes.
And it's between Madame Blanc and the unseen Mother Marcos.
Yes.
Helena Marcos, I believe she's called in the movie. And Mother Marcos is elected. That's another thing that was not in the original movie.
There's no vote?
No.
Okay.
No. There's really not much with the matrons in the original movie. It pretty much stays with Susie the whole time and her point of view. But I really admired that scene of where you're just exploring this room. It's empty, and then you're hearing in German, subtitled, this conversation going on that you have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah. So, well, you know that they're voting to see who is going to be like. I would just assume at that point, I think we're not really hinted into the whole thing, but they're voting on who is now like head mistress or, head madam or mother, but you don't know what that really means. It's almost like maybe they do it once a year. Like, hey, this year we're going to do my dance, like a script writing contest or something. Everyone kind of votes on, hey, your script is the best yours. And everyone votes once a year and okay, we'll do yours this year.
Yes.
So that's kind of what I figured it as.
And you don't know that it's a coven at all.
No.
At this point, some funky shit's going on in this place, but
yeah.
We haven't gotten into the witchy stuff yet. At least as a viewer. Again, it's weird because if you watch the original, you know that's going to happen. So I kind of wonder if your position on the movie would have been even more enjoyable having just watched this one, because
I think even when you read like any type of synopsis, or I think even when you read the little description of it, it tells you they're witches. It's not like it's a surprise. I mean, I think once you get in, you might not see the pieces falling together in a certain way, but you're like, okay, they're all witches. We just don't know how yet.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, I didn't think of that. The original movie, I should say, with Dario Argento's original, they had a wonderful score by a group that he collaborated with often, an Italian rock group called Goblin. And it's one of those movies that is sort of like Hitchcock's Psycho, and that the music is almost a character in the story. Like,
Yeah.
it seems to have a physical form. And one of the main themes is this really strange, like drum beat stuff. And in that thing, in that piece, there are voices in the track in the background that just sound like whispers. But if you listen really hard, you can hear a goblin saying, "They're witches, 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 witches." And so,
Yeah.
you know, you have that. But so in the original movie, when I first watched it, I didn't know that it was about witches and stuff. And I didn't pick that up until, you know,
Okay.
I was actually told it, because it's hidden pretty well in there.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to mention Goblin because they're so well known for Dario Argento, and especially Suspiria, because that's probably one of their most famous scores was for the original Suspiria. The music in this is kind of subdued. It's not like that. It doesn't have that, the character.
Was the dance as prominent?
Say that?
Was the dance as prominent? Like the dancing is prominent in the original one?
No.
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 Okay.
I mean, you see them dancing, but there's not a performance like the Volk
Okay.
in the remake. That there's not an equivalent of that in the original. Um, there's another girl that gets it pretty bad. Old Sarah. Mia Goth doesn't. She sneaks in and hears some of these witches talking.
Yeah.
And this is during that performance of Volk, as I recall. And they make holes in the floor open up. She breaks her legs. Oh man, broken legs.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm not a big broken bone guy. That's a way to get me. Basically, it's to show someone's.
Yeah, they're. Well, I think like you're talking about with the subtle CGI stuff. You know, there's gruesome things in it, but it's never like, oh my god, that's so silly. It's all like stuff. It's pretty brutal and small.
Yeah, it's very effective too, and probably because it's so sparse, it's effective.
Yeah.
It's just not, you know, it's not wall to wall violence.
Yeah, it's like The Witch, like the Witch movie. Like, there's just scenes out of nowhere that are like, oh shit. Like, it's just brutal. Yeah.
Yeah, and that movie, The Witch, I really enjoyed that. That kid, man, she was good. She was real good. That's one of those movies where they use that stilted English in such a way that it works.
Are you talking about the actress who played the kid, like Anna Taylor-Joy or whatever her name is?
Yeah, and she's gone on to do some real interesting stuff.
Yeah, she's everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I can see, judging from that. She's extremely talented. But anyway, back to Suspiria. Yeah, so there's that, and then she bursts in on the performance of Volk, and you know, Sarah with her broken legs, and she starts to dance like a robot, sort of, and taken over by this thing.
It was a good performance, though. I think she did a good job at doing that.
Yeah, and it seems pretty clear that Dakota Johnson and all the rest of them did their own dancing. I mean, it's kind of hard to fake it because you see them, you know. There may have been some double use, but that's if so, it was done very well. I don't know if Dakota Johnson is a dancer or has been a dancer, but she certainly pulled it off well.
Yeah.
I myself, having not been a dancer, is very easily impressed whenever I see people who can do some of those things, because it's a very athletic sport or activity.
Yeah. Well, you know, my girlfriend, she teaches ballet. And so, like, she was watching it with a critical eye and didn't really have that much negative to say about it. So they did some good stuff in there. Yeah.
Now, just the standing on point alone, man. Jeez.
Yes. Yeah. That's like one of the main things you do in ballet, and it takes like years of training just to be able to do that. And that's pretty much the start.
Yeah. Have you ever done any dancing? Like that kind of dancing?
No, I have not. I have done plenty of dancing, alcohol induced, but never on point.
Right. Well, in alcohol, you can do it on point, but your toes hurt later.
Yeah.
I went to a school actually where they required that we had to do dance classes, and
you have a live dancer's body.
I do. Are you shitting me or are you?
I mean, you're elongated and dainty.
Fine choice of words, sir. You're pretty dainty yourself.
Thank you.
We should dance the Volk. But no, I mean, but I got out of doing ballet. I did a lot of social dance. I did a lot of like, waltzing and stuff like that. That was the route I took. But anyway, so the point of that was I'm always impressed when I see actors who can actually dance and do that stuff because it's harder than I think most people give it credit for. But they all seem to do it very, very well. And there is this Volk performance, and then when we see her dancing in a sort of altered state, which comes into play later when you find out that these people who have died, are dead, but they're still existing in a certain altered state.
Parts are off of them. They're being borrowed somewhere else.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They're still up and about. We don't know that yet, but they are. So Sarah drops, and then Klimpler, the doctor. We're just going to refer to him as the doctor from now on.
Dr. Clips.
Dr. Klimpy. He comes out, and then he notices that Sarah's eyes and Susie's eyes change color at one point. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And at this,
he gets up to leave, right? He's trying to dip.
Yeah, and I don't blame him because this is some weird shit.
Yeah. Okay.
What were you gonna say?
Well,
I saw your wheels turning.
Yeah. Well, he is needed for the ritual, right?
It seems to be, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's why they took him, which is actually what happens pretty much next in the story. Because we should say that the doctor has a backstory, and the backstory involves his wife Anka. Am I pronouncing that right? I think her name was Anka. And this was again in 1977. He's an older man. During the war, he had a young wife when he too was young, and she disappeared in the war. And he's sort of tortured by what happened. Did she go to a camp? Was she murdered? Did she escape? And that's a big part of his character is his wife.
Yeah.
And at this point in the story, he comes across Anka, but she's the same age as she would have been theoretically. So that should be a tip-off. But he's so happy to see his wife. And by the way, she is played by Jessica Harper, the star of the original Suspiria, which I saw and I was like, oh, that's cool. She looks great. Because she looked great back then, too. But she explains to her husband that, she escaped to Zurich during the war, and then I think she went into Bristol, and that's how she survived, and they walk and have a nice little chat together. And everything seems okay, even though, in your mind, you kind of go, this seems a little too good to be true. and come to find out it was because this is a delusion created by the matrons to lure him back to the academy, which is where they then violently attack him and drag his old ass inside for this ritual that you were talking about. And what a ritual it is.
Yes.
Should we talk for a second about, well, we've kind of talked about the violence. There is this final sequence which involves disembowelment amongst
ultra-violence.
Yeah. Ultra-violence, yeah, in the words of our friend Alex. Yeah, because then they dance the actual performance. Susie finds her way in here, and the old doctor is laid out on the floor, butt-ass naked. And even though it's Tilda Swinton, he's endowed. I know you noticed that.
Why would you say that?
I'm just fucking with you.
Well, I really don't even remember, but sure, yeah, he had a big old one down there. Tilda requested it. I was in the script.
Yeah, and he's butt-ass naked, and this poor man. And the other Tilda is over on the other side of the room, because this is the one scene where all three Tildas are together.
Yeah.
Because Madame Blanc is here, and Mother Marcos, we see her grimy-looking ass for the first time, and boy, is she a looker.
She's not doing well.
No, she's not doing well because she's anciently old, I would say.
Aren't they all?
Seem to be, but she's showing her age more.
That it did bring some questions, and it could be the fact that she is just the oldest or like most powerful. But she's horrendous looking, and she's made up of all these body parts that it's shown that she's taken from the former dancers that are kept alive, maybe just for parts. But if that's the case, they're preparing her for a new vessel. Why didn't they just get her a new vessel? Like, does it take that long to find like a perfect host? Or she's just like, no, I just want a hand hanging out of my shoulder. Like, what is the reasoning for doing that? And like, are all the witches, or maybe it just wasn't her turn? And like,
Maybe.
if they're all old witches, do they all just get new bodies occasionally, or?
And there is a photograph we see of Madame Blanc and Mother Marco. Remember, as an old black and white photo?
Okay, I don't remember that.
I almost got the impression from that maybe Madame Marcos had done this before in terms of getting a new vessel, and that this vessel she had now was falling apart, literally.
Yeah.
And being sewn together with other people's. But I think Madame Marcos is supposed to be very old.
Okay, so you think it's just her that's supposed to be the old one?
Yeah, I think she's supposed to be older than, like, considerably older than the others.
Okay.
Yeah, because this dance academy has been there for a long time, and it's called Marcos Dance Academy.
Yeah.
So she may be 100 years old. I mean, who knows? In terms of her spirit. But I don't know. This is just the impression I got. Like a lot of things in these sorts of movies, you can kind of interpret things as you like. But having watched the original at this point, because in the original, the ancient person is the mother of size, Mater Suspiriorum, which means mother of size. And I should probably say that, like I say, this was in the original, it was part of a trilogy. There were three mothers. And the idea of the three mothers in the original was that they were all ancient, very powerful witches who each had their own coven. And they each had their own place in the world. One was in Germany, one was in Italy, I think, and then the other in Rome, and the other one was in New York. And from these three locations, the three mothers were meant to spread across the world tears, darkness, and sighs, because it was the mother of sighs, who is the mother of Suspiria, and then there's the mother of tears, and then there is the mother of darkness, who is the oldest and most evil of them all. No, actually, Mother of Tears was the oldest and most evil of them all. Mother of Darkness was the one that was in Inferno. So, having watched that original movie, seeing Madame Marcos, you go, oh, well, she's, Matis Superiora. Oh, she's the mother of sighs. But as we come to find out, she is just a witch who is trying to summon the mother of sighs. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but she seems more interested in her own longevity than she does in summoning the mother of sighs.
Yeah. I think that's kind of when you hear the vote, like they all vote for Marcos except for Tilda Swinton's character, right? And she votes for either herself or somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And that's why she doesn't get exploded, because I think Suspiria is like, she knows she's supposed to be over it. And then they all try to oust her, and then she just comes and she don't play that shit.
Right.
One cool thing. So, and this goes back to the flashbacks at the beginning with Dakota Johnson's character. Her mom they're very, very conservative. Like everything that they do, it's like you can't do anything in their little society. And she's dying of something. It's not clear. She's just dying, gasping. But this goes back to what you were talking about earlier with, is Suspiria already in Dakota Johnson the whole time, or does she come later? Because the mom dies and you hear over and over again her sighing. So is the mother of sighs already present and is like just waiting like how is it all intertwined? Because it seems like she get hit with it early as a child, about going to this place and going to this academy. Like it happens early, which has got to be a seed planted, especially if you're a child that's not exposed to anything.
Yeah, the sort of, I think my take on it was that she was always the mother of size.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know, and because spoilers, she is the mother of size. You don't know it until this point in the movie, because after the altered states I was talking about, Sarah and Olga and Pat over there. Was it Pat? Was the other one? Yeah, Pat was the third one, right? That was disemboweled.
Okay. Yeah.
In the ritual. They get disemboweled, and then this crazy ass dance ritual goes about to summon, I guess, to transfer this Marcos' soul, and Madame Blanc tries to stop it at one point, and Marcos nearly takes her head off.
Yeah.
Because
she says something, it's not right. Not as in like it's not right to do this, but like something is going wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't even know that the mother of size is right there with them the whole time.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting to me is to try and figure out when Susie realized she was the mother of size.
So I think that if we're saying the mother of size was already in her the whole time, I'm going to say, and I think they're a little older in this movie, but usually something like that comes into play when you hit puberty, like that's usually, some type of symbolism. But in this movie, it's almost like she doesn't know, but Tilda Swinton does know. Mm-hmm. Something is weird about her, because she's very interested, and there's like a lot of buildup. At the latest, I think that she knows she's Mother Suspiria at that big dinner with everyone. When Tilda Swinton's just like staring at her and she's staring back. Like, I think that's the point where they each of them know that something's up.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think you might be on something there, mister.
There's hints probably before it, but that's the part where you're watching, you're like, they're being so weird staring at each other. And then you're like, after that happens, you're like, oh, okay. It's because they both know shit's about to happen.
Right. Because the thing about Madame Marcos is she just wants to live forever, I think. But I think Madame Blanc actually wants to summon the mother of size.
Yeah. And like
she's the one who actually,
keep them going.
Right. And if she ends up not summoning so much, well, I guess she summons her, but she brings her there, not in the way that you would think through a ritual particularly, but Mother of Size shows up, and she does not like this activity.
Okay, so maybe that's it then. So maybe Tilda Swinton knows. So Marcos is trying to find a vessel to elongate her life, whereas they think that Suspiria does not have a vessel. So the thought maybe then is that the other witches are wanting their own power, so they do not want to give Suspiria a vessel. So the one that's been prepped for Suspiria, Marcos is just wanting to take for herself. And so maybe Tilda Swinton is like, this is not for you. And so she's like, Suspiria is coming back. She needs this, and she's going to be mad. Mm-hmm. And then she does come back, and she's mad.
She's very mad. Yeah. She summons up the death himself.
Yep. The actual death.
Actual death. And then death kills all of them.
Except for Tilda Swinton. She lives.
That's right. Which Tilda Swinton?
The main one. The real Tilda Swinton. Like, her head's almost gone, but she's alive.
She's alive. Oh, and the other Tilda Swinton lives too. The man.
The old man. Yeah.
The doctor. Yeah, but not Marcos.
No, Marcos doesn't make it.
No, she goes down hard. So we end up with 2 Tilda Swintons at the end of this, as opposed to 3, which are the 2 we've spent most time with anyway. So I'm good with that. Madame Marcos was a monster.
Yes,
literally. But there is kind of it's interesting that the way that they portray the mother of size in this, because at the end she does go to the doctor and she takes away his memories.
Yes.
All of everything that's happened, because he is naturally just, destroyed by this experience.
So I think they do a good job. So the names of the three, I'm just getting like way out there right now, so forgive me. But like the names of the three wishes are the mother, tears, sighs, and darkness, right?
Yeah.
But especially tears and sighs aren't necessarily bad things. So like tears, you can cry tears of happiness. Sighs, you can a sigh of relief, or I think in some parts of this um like sexual sighs, and then darkness doesn't have to be bad. It can just be night. Um, but I think that they're not necessarily trying to show that the witches are bad. And so when she, with the old man Tilda, um, giving him the relief of knowing what happened to his wife, like, and then doesn't she kills him too, right? Lets him pass. Doesn't she kill him?
I remember she causes him to have a seizure that erases
Okay.
his memory.
Okay. Well, either way, he has now been given that sigh, like he's been holding his whole life to, she allows him to let go of that.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's not necessarily bad that she killed all those bad people.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's bad ultimately that they have to kill the young girls, but it must not be a lot of young girls all the time. It's just one occasionally. And who doesn't do that?
I mean, I've done it twice today.
Every big endeavor has to have some sacrifice to it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's something to the mother of any of the mothers having goodness to them, being good witches or bad witches. We are just in the middle of the coven doing bad deeds selfishly. So if they all come back, then it's possible that it could go about to good things. Now, I have not seen the first one, so it could be that they're all assholes.
Well, in the first trilogy, they're all assholes.
Okay.
But what's interesting about the remake, though, is what you were talking about. The witches who are out for their own gain, Marcos leading the way, are portrayed as evil, whereas the Mother of Sighs, like you said, is not portrayed as being inherently evil.
Yeah.
In fact, you almost think, well, if they had worshipped the Mother of Sighs instead of Marcos, they might have come out better,
Absolutely. Yeah.
But Marcos is more interested, seemingly, in her own self gain, in her own immortality.
Well, and in the flashbacks of Dakota Johnson as a young girl, she's caught in the closet, like pleasuring herself, right? And then she's like, there's a lot of things that even her dances and the actual breathy dance and her going up the wall, that's in the preview, I believe, when she's like scaling the wall, like levitating. That's all sexual, and it's almost like that just is representative of just being a woman in general. Like it's not evil things; it's just owning yourself. And maybe the other witches are like not, especially the mother or the parents in that scenario, not letting her do it causes a problem.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, it's an interesting. It leaves you on an interesting note, and it's an interesting movie in so much as it is horrific and surrealistic, but it has a lot of substance to it, which is what I like about it, and maybe what horror fans didn't like about it. I mean, I've said this before, but my biggest thing with modern horror is, number one, nostalgia ruling the day, and number two, people settling for the same old formula. I.e., in the first 10 minutes, someone has to die, and then in every subsequent 10 minutes, a killer whose name that the producers hope will catch on and be like Freddy Krueger has to kill another person until the end with the final girl. Maybe I'm just getting old or my taste is changing, but I'm really bored by that.
Well, so you watch a lot more movies than I do in general, and probably specifically a lot of horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know what gets released, especially on Netflix, Amazon, Hulu. It's not always great quality horror movies. I think more people do horror because it's probably the easiest genre to cheaply make, right? Isn't that why people do it?
And it's easier to get distribution.
Exactly. And so the same can be said of a lot of movies. Like, think about how many romantic comedies are out there that just get shoveled through, but you just don't watch those kind of movies.
Yeah.
And so you need things like Ari Aster to make Midsummer and Hereditary to mix it up, but there's just not as many people doing those big different things.
Right. Yeah. And there is sort of a sadness to it for me, because I see a movie, and even if I don't necessarily love the movie, I can respect a movie for trying to do something different.
Yeah.
You know, I really loved Hereditary.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah.
And I loved it because I guess it's a matter of bar. You know, if you set the bar very low and just go a notch above it, you can eke by. But if you actually try to make something great, whether you succeed or not, you try to transcend the genre and make something that's a horror film but is also could be more, a la The Exorcist would be a great example, the original. I think that there's a certain amount of respect that should come with that, you know? But sadly, a lot of those kind of movies don't make a lot of money. I mean, Us is a good example, but I think Us made money. I watched Us and I was like, wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah. But that was also after he already proved himself, though.
That's true. That's true. And Get Out made money.
Yeah. And even before Get Out, he was already like fine. He was making money. He had he knew he had a vision and he had plenty of time and backers to do it. And good. I mean, he made great movies. But yeah. I think a lot of people that jump in, do you have that time and skill and talent? Like Hereditary was good. The acting in it was just uncanny, like amazing acting. And Suspiria, a lot of it was too. Did you see Midsummer yet?
I haven't seen Midsummer.
Okay, well I won't go into that then. There's some better acting in that. But if you're getting these first time horror people making these movies, whether they're high, like you said, high aims or low aims, you might not have the talent pool to make your vision a reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, and usually you don't if you don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
The good thing about all those movies, and The Witch too is another example. The good thing about all those movies is that they did have enough budget to where you could get some good actors in it, and performances they can do a lot for a movie in terms of make or break it. I mean, especially if you're doing something that's not dependent on, okay, we're going to rip this guy's intestines out, because that's an easy trick. That's a special effects thing. You can buy that, but you can't buy good acting.
Right.
But anyway, so that's my little tirade, I suppose, on horror. I think all in all, I really enjoyed the movie. I love everything. It kind of lost me in the direction of the final ritual. I wasn't too keen on how that was shot.
I think for me watching again just the previews, that scene seemed in particular to be more of a callback to the original, like very vibrant colors, like odd angles, like looked very 70s. Even down to like the, kind of hard to describe, but nudity, the way the nudity is shot is 70s. Like the way it's shot now and how it was in that scene are very different.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know why, for some reason that took me, I don't know, the last sequence kind of took me out a little bit. And there were a couple things here and there, but overall, like I said, I respect greatly somebody that's going to not just do like a cheap remake, but do a remake that's aiming high and that tries to be actually quite artful and have a depth and texture to it that's unusual in the genre movie.
It was a less colorful neon demon.
Yeah. That's another good example. I mean, we're actually pointing out some good movies here.
Yeah, I'm a lot of the movies we've talked about, like they're good and they're all long and slow, but they're still good.
Yeah. And they just, maybe that's what you need is just to break up that formulaic rhythm of every 10 minutes, a teenager gets slaughtered. I don't know. And there can be fun in that too. Don't get me wrong, but it does kind of get old once you've seen, 100 of them. It's like, oh, guys, come on.
Yeah.
And it's like, And then, you know, the sheriff walks in and he's Sheriff Craven. I'm like, oh, yeah, I get it. I get it.
You've seen a couple of movies. We got it.
Yeah. I remember him. He was great. Now move on. But anyway, so that was overall, I enjoyed it with a few caveats, but no more than I would have on any film. What about you?
Yeah, I'm all for it. I want to watch it again. It has a lot of good inspiration to it. I think like a lot of the shots and some of the artistic direction of it are very, very well set up, like very well shot, interesting things done to draw from. A lot of mood setting that I enjoyed.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, next time we'll have to talk about one of the many other movies that we've mentioned here that didn't have time to go into.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in seeing Midsummer because, like I said, I am now a Ari Aster fan. He got me with Hereditary, so yeah. But anyway, man, I want to thank you for joining me here on the show this week.
Absolutely, man. And you know what I just got in the mail?
What's that?
The Spiritus, now on DVD.
Oh, yeah, Spiritus. I have a DVD of that around here somewhere.
Yeah.
Hang on. Are you talking about that movie?
Yes, and if you order now, it will come quicker than 2 years.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Very true. Look at that. Don't you guys want to buy that? Yeah. I the reason we say this because I wrote it and directed it, and this guy here is acting it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So what more do you need?
I don't know. I guess you could if there was some way for us to reference our own movie in regards to this movie, then we would have come full circle.
Yeah. Well, they both start with an S and they're one word.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I believe there were a few hands in Suspiria as well.
That's right. And a couple people sighed in Spiritus.
Spiritus is Suspiria's sister.
That's right. So on that note, thanks for joining me today, buddy.
Yeah, man.
We'll do this again. And you guys, thanks for watching. And till next time, take care of yourselves.
Good day.